Jimmy, only 3 other guys have done this as many times as you have. I understand we have Barbie to thank for you this year.
We have Barbie to thank for so many things. I mean, just teaching us about the human body is one of them. But in my case, I was at the movies in Idaho Falls. It was over the summer. I was on vacation. I took my kids and my wife. We went to go see Barbie in this little multiplex movie theater. And I looked at the movie and I thought, this is a good reason to host the Oscars. Should Barbie be nominated? And then it became clear that Barbie was going to be nominated. And I thought, yeah, I think this, it's nice to have something that everybody's seen to kind of build the show around.
I understand the first time you did this, you made a joke about a movie and it was clear to you that not enough people had seen it.
Yeah, that's right. Moonlight was the movie. It won Best Picture. I still don't think anybody saw it. Like, weirdly, they voted for it. I'm not 100% sure they saw it because this was a rock-solid joke. It was a guaranteed laugh joke. It was a little bit dirty. It was the perfect Oscar night joke, and it didn't get anything. And I thought, you guys aren't necessarily watching all these movies, are you?
And you do. Most people don't know that about you.
I watched them all. I watch about 100 movies a year, which is a lot of movies. I didn't even realize I was watching so many movies until I started thinking about this show. And I just like this, I enjoy seeing the movies, but also like I feel like I need to know what the show is about.
Does part of the reason to do it lie with the turmoil in this business, the strikes this past year? It's a coming together after that, isn't it, Jimmy?
Absolutely. Not just that, but, we went through a long strike, 5 months on strike. And it was a tough strike. It was a lot longer than I think any of us imagined it would be. And so at the end of it, you just go right back to work. At least that's how it worked for us. Like suddenly we're right back on the air and we're thinking about the current events and we're not thinking about any of this stuff, And the opportunity to preside over the show that celebrates the end of that strike, the beginning of getting back to work, a great reminder that everybody's doing, people in this industry are living their dreams, and I know it sounds kind of corny, but they are. They dreamed about this mode. They dream about being at the Oscars, and that show wasn't even a guarantee we would have one. So it's fun for me, and also it's a nice check for my writers who are out of work all summer.
I've read this more than once. What do you think your younger self would think about the fact that you're now called a steadying influence on the Academy Award show?
I think it's, it really is humbling for me, it's so strange to be driving on a weeknight at midnight and you look in the window of somebody's house and you see yourself on their television. That's happened to me a few times. And that is like, it is like when you hear a musician talk about hearing their song on the radio. It's something that makes it feel real. And I look at these pictures of myself and I never go back and watch myself host the Oscars. I don't even watch it, until I'm hosting again and I need to analyze it to see what worked and what didn't work. I don't do it. So like this show, I'll do it, and that it will be in the ether for me. But to look at myself in these, to look up and see a billboard that I'm on with the Oscar is like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Before we began, you were talking about that you came to the job gradually. Good point.
I did. I was really very lucky to be able to, and it's just, I think, rare now in this day of YouTube and podcasts, but to be able to be on the radio for 12 years leading up to my first television job, which was a game show, which, the pressure wasn't on me. It was on Ben Stein, who I hosted the show with. And then I did the Man Show with Adam Carolla, and we split our duties. And then, I did a few other things here or there. But then to do this show now, I've used those skills, that the writing skills, the performing skills, just the even like kind of managing the grind is one of the biggest parts of the job.
How did you and your wife, Molly, get to a yes on this?
Well, she'll go along with whatever I want to do. I should say professionally. Personally, that is not true. She will not go along with whatever I want to do. But when it comes to something like this, I think she just wants to throw the kind of remind me of the negatives. Like, you realize this and you remember this and don't forget this and whatever. And if I say, yeah, then she'll go, okay, all right, well, then I'll help you with it. But she's been working a lot on it. You know, she's one of the executive producers of the show. And there are a lot more decisions that even I realized there were.
Her increased role has changed your lives these past few months, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. She has been very busy with every aspect of the show, from who the musical performance will be to who will be presenting to even just the security protocols are something that you never think about when you're just hosting the show. There's a lot that goes into this.
Does she make you funnier?
Yeah, she does. She makes me funnier. She makes me think about things before I say them sometimes, which is a good thing to have. Yeah, she does. And she herself is funny, and it's great to have somebody to go back and forth with at 2:00 in the morning.
And you try out these jokes on your friends. You don't do comedy clubs, right? But
I don't.
You try them out on your friends before we hear them on Oscar night.
I try them out with groups of people who have been to the Oscars, who get what it is about. You know, because there's a tendency, like if I were to get just a group of my like friends from back home and I'd read the jokes, they'd only like all the meanest jokes. You know, that's just kind of how it goes. But you want people who've been in that position, who understand, you know, and yeah, there are some jokes that are have a little bit more of a bang than the others. But, you know, I have to remember where I am, what's going on, why these people are there, and that I'm not there I'm like the maitre d' at this event.
But there's a line between respect and disrespect.
There is. There's definitely a line between, and I'm constantly trying to figure out where that line is, and the line changes depending upon who we're talking about.
And the hour, right? Hour 3, a little looser?
Yes. As the show goes on, it becomes less scripted, but also because there are things to react to. There's nothing to react to at the beginning of the show. Ideally, I mean, like, people forget, like, we had the whole set fall down day of the show one year, and like it just got kind of forgotten because of the envelope situation.
You get a little looser on hour 3, but what do you see backstage that we don't get to see? What's the coolest thing about being backstage?
Okay, that's a good question. Last year, I saw John Travolta, who I've had on my show and who I, you know, really like. I had the lunchbox, the Welcome Back Kotter lunchbox growing up, you know. So John Travolta is a big figure in my life, and I went up to say hello to him, and he was not as gregarious as he usually was. He was and I forgot that he was about to go introduce the In Memoriam, and two of the people in the In Memoriam were his good friends, Olivia Newton-John and Kirstie Alley. So he was feeling very emotional at that moment, and I realized it, unfortunately, after I greeted him, like, hey, how's it going? You know, and, you know, sometimes you recount these events and you're like, oh, yeah, dummy.
I heard your first hosting job, 15, Vegas, flea market, Father Bill. Did you get the bug at 15, really? It's a nice story if it's true.
I think I did. It's a true story. I went to a church called Christ the King Catholic Community. I was my priest. I was an altar boy. He thought I was funny, and he's a good friend of mine, and we had this church flea market. So everybody who went to the church brought their junk and set up a table, and they sold everything they sold. The money all went to the church. And so he said, hey, listen, we have a stage, and we have some raffles and stuff like that. Do you want to be the guy who does it? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I got up there and, of course, just started making fun of Father Bill the whole time. And people were laughing really hard, and I was like, oh, boy, I really like this. You know, I don't know that I admitted it to anybody, but I knew that I really liked, even though I'm inherently a shy person, that I enjoyed being on stage and getting those laughs.
And you fear a quiet audience to this day, don't you?
Fear a quiet audience? Well, it keeps me going. You know, if people ask me what keeps me going, why I obsess over the monologue every night, and I really, you know, I write this monologue for the show every night, which is unusual. Most of the hosts don't do that, you know, and the reason is because I don't want to bomb, you know, like it's fear. It's like I don't want to bomb. I want to make sure that if things don't go well, it's fortune, not not a lack of planning or professionalism or any of those things. So that's what keeps me on my toes every night.
It's interesting because my earliest interview with you in this job was very early on, and I can remember you dashing right after the interview to go and write some more. And I remember that last image as we were leaving of you over the typewriter, just actually the computer, but you were really just banging it out. I've never forgotten that.
It's funny because people sometimes say, like, we'd like to come and film you and watch you prepare for the show. And I was like, you realize what it is going to be? You're going to see me just typing for 2 hours.
I want to end here as we close on legacy. One of the most interesting things I read is that is the value of the Oscar show for you.
Yes.
That it is part of history by definition. Talk a little to me, if you would, about that.
Well, my show, my nightly show is something that I don't kid myself. It's topical, it's disposable, it's pretty much over when it's over. It'll live on YouTube for a few days and then people forget about it. Occasionally there's an event or an instance or something that I say that resonates and will stick around. But one thing I know is that the Oscars are, they've become part of like our American history. And you see these clips, these montages of the Oscars, and we all know what's in those clips, David Niven and the Streaker and, Sacheen Littlefeather, etc. And to be a part of that, it means something to me. And it feels less disposable than what I do every single night.
We've come to a close, and I want to tell you that this interview is the last in 47 years for me, the last public figure that I'll interview.
I can't believe this.
I could not think of a better way to go out. And I just want to tell you, in a half century, I've learned how extraordinarily difficult it is to do what you do day after day, year after year, and make it look easy. So I have a respect for what you do. But through it all, as you have gotten ever more popular and hosted more of these shows, you're just a good guy with great talent and a great guy. And that is rare, I think. Sometimes this town can change a person. And what you see has always been what you get with you, Jimmy. And you've been so kind to me and considerate. And I just want you to know that I appreciate it.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. I hate that this is about me. This is your big moment.
No, it's great to go out with somebody that you respect as much as I respect you.
Well, I feel the same way. And I feel like this is part of, you talk about that legacy and whatever is these interviews that we do. And I wish I'd known this in advance. I am going to get you something. You know what? I'm going to give you one of these Oscars, Sandy. If anybody deserves it, you do. And thank you I am honored and sad.
Thanks. And as always, you brought it. So the last one, not bad, right?
A standing ovation to Sandy. You got it. Thank you.
That's great luck.